Started. This next section of the conference is another roundtable with all this distinguished people over here to my left. The topic we'll be talking about is the changing world. And as you know, this morning John Drew gave an excellent presentation of different aspects of the changing world that we currently living in. What we're going to do for the format for this is provide both a little bit about what we think about what's happening, our perspectives, our views, our visions of the changing world. And then we're going to open up some time for all of you who would either like to ask questions about what the panelists think, or you could share your view of what you see is happening in the changing world. Okay? So I'd like to start with Tana to my left and have her give a brief description of how she sees what's happening currently in our changing world.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm on your left side, so I'm from your heart side, and I like it. We've been talking a lot about the situation the world is in, and we were talking about the crisis situation. And I believe that the crisis is the sign of the global change. And let me just convey to you how I see this change. And I believe we just have to get our act together on a personal level and also on transpersonal level. So what I see is that this civilization is based on a wrong assumption. And we build a civilization on the assumption and on the delusion of the ego that we as people are separate from Earth and the universe, that we are solitary beings in an alien and hostile universe. So our civilization developed as opposed the universe, and to survive we need to get everything from outside, having the empty soul and heart. We feel we need to, for survival strategy, to replenish everything from outside. So that's why we conquered the earth, and we got almost all of her resources, and she's losing the ability to sustain life on this planet. And what I've been really concerned about, that still so many people are deceived, believing in this illusion of separation and disconnected. And it gives what I say, the homo separatus. We are on the stage of, most of us, on the stage of homo separatus, in separation and disconnection from the earth and from the universe, and suffering deep solitude, despair, fear, anger, and believing that we need to replenish everything from outside. So sucking like a vacuum cleaner, everything to fill it up our inner life. And I believe that if we want to get our act together, we need to, and it's happening, the evolution from homo separatus, disconnected from the whole, to homo holos, who is a perfect manifestation of the whole and embracing everything with this his tender consciousness. So I believe we're moving to this stage of the homo holos, just embracing everything and having open heart and mind, being able to to really comprehend everything. And I believe the universe wants to comprehend itself through our mind. But to get our act together on a personal level, we need to really become like a clear mirror of the world. And then I believe that the world is the clear mirror of our consciousness. So if we have fragmented and polluted consciousness, the world is polluted and fragmented. But if we gather all the spread out pieces of our consciousness, because it's cut for different pieces, in different pieces, like we have a victim inside, and we have a persecutor inside, we have an angel and devil inside, we have all kinds of personalities inside. If we can really heal and gather these all personalities and integrate it into our system, then the mirror of our consciousness could be integrated, and then we can reflect the world as a whole. So first thing is to do this inner alchemy with embracing all the split parts of ourselves, and then transcend. The first level is transformation inside, and then transcending and embracing the whole. And I believe that Homo Holos is really feeling that the world is my home. And I don't want to destroy what I love. I love my home. I feel this universe is abundant and loving, and I belong to it. And then maybe we can stop killing the life and turning our life energy against the life on this planet. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tana. I agree. I think the one thing we know is that the crises we're in is the worst crises that we've ever been in, and they're in every single area of life. And I think we also know that the system as a whole is unsustainable. In other words, it can't continue the way that it's going at this level. I think what's interesting is that at times like this, we always get two prophecies. We get the negative people who say there is going to be a breakdown, like a human breakdown, but at a planetary level. Israel will invade Iran, the financial system will go completely up the spout, there'll be wars over water, the starvation will get worse, and everything will get worse. There's a lot of people who say that. And then there's the optimists who say we're coming into a wonderful new Aquarian age where there will be milk and honey and a wonderful world. I think it's very good that we have both possibilities in front of us, because if we only believe the disaster scenario, we'd make it happen. And if we only believe the milk and honey scenario, we would just lie back and wait for it to happen. And then it may not happen. But I think what we need to know is that we have the world in our hands. It's up to us. I think we, the people, I heard Gorbachev give a speech once, and he said that the change that has happened is that now it's up to the people of the world, which is the point that my dear friend John said this morning. It's up to the people to make the difference. So what kind of world we have is up to you and I, and not to them, whoever they, our world leaders, our economists may be. Because as I said in my talk this morning, one of the problems of the people who are trying to create a new world, or to redo the financial system is that they're trying to solve problems at the level that the problems exist. And we need to shift to a new level. I would like to hold myself as a possibilist, which means I'm neither a pessimist nor an optimist, but I hold for possibilities. If I were to give my own personal vision, I don't think we're going to have a complete breakdown scenario. I don't think the financial system is going to go broke. I don't think Israel is going to invade Iran. But I feel that it's slowly going to get worse, and at the same time, it's going to give us the opportunity to shift gears in time. It's like a personal crisis. We feel the symptoms, and if we get them, we're able to make the shift before it's too far gone. And I feel that just as people say in our personal transformation that we never get anything more than we can deal with, I feel that at a global level we're not going to get anything more than we can deal with, but we need to be very watchful and wakeful and take great responsibility for how we live our lives and realize that we are planetary citizens, planetary warriors, activists of the heart, and we need to take stands, each of us, for the kind of world that we want and not leave it up to others. So there's a huge responsibility for all of us who want a better world. Thank you.
Before I respond to what Serge said, which I very much agree with, I want to tell you a story of today. If you saw the television or the radio or the newspapers, you would see there are grave problems in the Yemen. The leader has come back and everybody is in the streets and is being shot and killed, and there's a huge crisis. But it isn't the crisis of the Yemen. The crisis of the Yemen is that Sana'a, the capital, has 13 million people living in it. It may become the first capital city in living memory to have to move because of the water shortage. The wells are tapped down 1,000 meters and the tanks are running on empty. Nature can't replace them, and the population is set to double over the next 20 years. Local, often violent skirmishing between water users is already common, and the population will migrate. You imagine if you said the population of Paris had to migrate to the sea, or the population of London, just to take two examples. It's almost unimaginable what will happen. And of course, if you migrate from the to the sea in the Yemen, you end up either shooting missiles and stopping everything coming, all the tankers and everything coming through the Suez Canal, or you get into boats and go across to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So let's not pretend that this crisis is going to be something that might happen. It's something that's going to happen. And I personally believe it's going to happen very quickly over the next 10 years. So therefore, what can we do, little us? Well, our lives go on, but we can choose to engage in the sustainability revolution instead of just waiting for it to happen. We can individually or collectively make a difference by becoming involved and choosing a particular issue about which we feel strongly. We can support one of the million NGOs involved with our environmental issues. We can change our consumption habits towards buying sustainable food and consumer products and support the companies that produce them. Just because we can only do a little to make our planet better, it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse for doing nothing. Similarly, because we do a little doesn't mean it has no value. However serious the prospects for civilization as a whole, we still have an individual responsibility to do something constructive. We must act now and start to repair our future. Now, you might say, well, that's very interesting. What book are you reading? Well, it's a book called The Protein Crunch, which was written by David Lorimer. We're running out of protein in the next few years because fish heads and tails, there's no more fish and heads and tails. There's no more, we can't keep on using soya because it uses too much agricultural land, and we've got to do it from something else. And some entrepreneurs are now working on, for example, making protein out of the larvae of flies, which is what animals eat in the farmyards. And they're producing at the moment several tons a week. But one day, a vision might be that at every abattoir in the world, there's a $100 million organization which just makes flies create little pellets which you give to pigs and you give to pigs and to give to other animals, particularly chickens, to feed them. But so these crises are on us, and I wonder whether I've done enough, and I don't think I have, to take it seriously as a little book like this, which I've just read by David Lorimer, makes me think. It is a serious crisis, a very big one, and I don't think it's any use just saying, well, we'll do something a little bit later. Maybe we've got to make commitments in a transpersonal way very much sooner and not much later. Thank you.
John, when I listen to you, it's really, and you told us about this crisis, it's more than frightening. It's when we really feel when we really feel what these crises of the world are about, and when we don't look at them at the TV and at the same time having our dinner, then it stops me breathing. When we really dare to feel this crisis in our body, then I become speechless and devastated. It's not something to talk about. It's something to considering to do something. It's just terrible. But there is also another side of it. At the other side, we have to see that mainly in Central Europe, we have peace for over 60 years now. This is incredible. In the history of Europe, we never had that. And we all live in relatively wealth. The purity in Central Europe compared with other countries is on a relative high level. So what do we have? We have this peaceful happiness, and on the other side we have this disaster taking away our breath. So we live in a world of schizophrenia. That's what Vladimir said. It's the normal today is the schizophrenic. We pretend to be normal, but the normal is the schizophrenic. We have to say today that what spirituality always is longing for, oneness. In a way, we reach all oneness. Look at the internet. Look at the financial connectedness. We are all interdependent, and we see that everybody, you could feel it today, that we are not individuals, independent individuals. We are all dependent on what is happening in Iraq. We are depending on what is happening in China. We are depending on the poisoned air, the poisoned water. What you are telling us, what is the protein crunch? We are dependent. You know what Buddha discovered in his enlightenment? We are just dependent. We are interdependent. It's not true that we are individual. We are the individuality, somebody says, is a luxury of the Western illusion. What is the difference between what Buddha discovered in his enlightenment and what we experience today? The difference is that our oneness is based on anxiety, on greed, on anger, on jealousy, and so on. And Buddha's oneness is based on love. So the problem today is, how could anxiety, greed, and anger be transformed to love? You know, this is our problem. How could it be done? I'm convinced from my work that there is no difference between the collective and the individual. It is a big illusion in my what I feel, that we can say, I do something for myself, and what's the matter with the collective? I don't care. The split, for example, we also mostly feel in most persons today. Most persons today have a big split in their personalities, and it's always the same. On the one side, there's a big shadow part, and on the other side, there's a big light part. So how to transform it? I think a good way with what we all can do, we have to look in our mirror. We have to look in the mirror and facing anxiety, everybody knows where is my weak point, where's my anxiety, where's my greed. Everybody knows it. We can do it all the time. We can start it now. Facing it all, and then we'll see it transforms. Anxiety to love. So I'm asked to finish. Thank you very much.
Yes, we are living in the time of global problem, and as Serge pointed, all generation lived in the time of problem, and John pointed our attention to the problem with protein, and he shared that in coming 10 years, maybe we will encounter the greatest economical crisis. I know economists in Russia who have the similar vision, who lived in, who know for sure that it might happen if we will not do something to prevent it. And as it was said by Tanna, by John, by Inga, the source of all problems, global problems, is human being. So in the core of economical problem, in the core of problem with population, problem with terrorism, problem with even with climate, is anthropological catastrophe. Something is happening with human being. And, you know, it gives us a kind of encouragement to use our understanding and our resources. Who, if not we, will act to save the world? We, transpersonal people from EUROTAS, from World Transpersonal Movement, we understand maybe better than other psychologists, other sociologists, economists, the roots of modern crisis. We may be better than other psychologists and people of similar profession know the tools and methods for development, for saving the world. Who, if not we, will serve the humanity. And I see multiple ways to serve. As John said, it might be enough just to start from simple step in your ordinary life, to just in your family, with your colleagues and students, to share your vision. And as some of you know, the theme of 17th International Transpersonal Conference was the consciousness revolution, transpersonal discoveries that are changing the world. From one point of view, we have a global problem and global crisis. From another side, we have tremendous knowledge from secret tradition, which are now available. We have great research. We have great knowledge of human resources. Why not to apply this knowledge? And what we are trying to do in Russia, for example, to inform people through television and through conferences, through our education program, through books, and at least it gives us a chance to do something. Thank you.
I want to... Excuse me, just at bottom to what Vladimir said. I don't believe that a human being is the source of a crisis, but this connection from the source is the reason for the crisis. So we need to reclaim the missing link of consciousness, which is linking us with the wholeness to recover. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Okay. So what I see in the world is a lot of confusion. And I don't want to go into details about the confusion, then more see how do we hold that in us, how do we hold that in the collective field. Because the confusion is a lack of coherence. That means what is the perception of the essence of life? And so we lost the contact with that, and with that the essence that we hold in us. So the work as a therapist is to connect us again with this essence. At least that's how I understand my work. Spirituality for me is not a concept, are not ideas, are not rituals. It is all about love. And love is the resonance with the flow of life. And as I write in our brochure, life expresses itself in pulsation. Pulsation is movement, movement is change. Life is continuous change. So how do we participate in that change? That means when we resist change, it leads in contraction. Contraction leads into crisis. Expansion is endless. So in that respect, we also got to see how do we allow the change in our body field. And I call it body field very much on purpose, because it's not a stagnant body. I hear so much of the differentiation here. So we are not the body, we are more in the transpersonal realm. There is no transpersonal without the personal, and there is no personal without the body. And if I understand that deeply, and I come from many schools, and in America we are together in the Association for Humanistic Psychology, the Transpersonal Psychology. We have a section for somatics in it. So in that respect, I like to hear Neil, and we got to have the courage to move away from our specialization and separation in words and look for a whole person psychology. So in that respect, what connects us all is the air that we breathe, the breath that I take in, enrich me. So with me, in my lungs, in my bloodstream, with my prana, I breathe it out. And you breathe it in a very homeopathic form. So it's an illusion that there is a separation. And light connects us all. So we are all in the same light. So in that respect, I got to see. I work in the army leadership in Norway. I work in psychology. I work with extremely rich people and multimillionaires and corporations. And I don't look at them. What are you doing? What are you doing? My question is, are your principles for life or against life? And then we can look at it to see how do you hold the notion of what life is about, and how, from my definition, as love as a resonance with the flow of life, how do you stay then in the notion of love? And if you act from that world, I think we create a very different world. And besides that, you may look, I heard that question that says, what is transpersonal psychology? So really changing or reaching in a client. I can say I see in my work a lot of changes, but even if I would not see it, if you feel the call, if you feel that life pulsing in you, you have no other chance. And from that aspect, I invite you to allow your pulsation and your radiation into the world, and from that place you change it. So thank you.
If I may summarize this a little bit, it seems that the panel is very much in agreement that we're in a time of crisis. And because of the fact that we are interconnected, we need to take some action. We can't just hide away. We can't pretend it's not happening. That there needs to be some action taken to make some, or bring about some changes. So you've heard what the panel thinks. If anyone in the audience would like to expand on anything that any one of these panelists has said today, if you have any questions for any of them, or if you would like to share your perspective, please raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you. Is there a microphone person in the room?
Okay, who is first?
Someone over here.
When I was a child, I was very unhappy because I haven't seen any sense in this life. I didn't know anything about the soul, anything about the evolution of the soul, and the life was so, how to say, sufficient. So I think that we don't have to wait for nowadays children to become a clients tomorrow. I think that it is very important for children to know about the soul, about the sense of everything that's happened. Because nowadays new children are born, and of course in their souls there is a very, very big history. So maybe it is the time that we need to go to those children and to make a new education with body, mind, with heart, and with other things that are around us, even they are invisible. So I think that it is good to think how we can change the education now, because the education now, it is a matrix that is working for hatred, for conqueration, for separation, not for unification, for united. Thank you.
Don't you think that we should love this crisis? Finally, we can come out with what we really think is important. And now the world will listen. So I'm not unhappy with this crisis. And crisis has a second meaning in the Chinese language, and that's chance.
Yep.
So I take the chance.
Thank you.
Excuse me, but I have talk again about astrology. As an astrologist, 25 years I'm dealing with Mundan and global prognostications. Uh, this December, the last period, have a prognostication about this period of the end of the March and the beginning of the April this year, that it should be possible, it had be possible some dangerous situations in the Middle East or in Africa, or it should be some accident in atomic central. It was on the TV in Bulgarian. So that's why I'm not talking about the bad or good prognosticators. I didn't concretize in what country, but this is the idea of the positive meditations, because our thoughts are material. And that's why yesterday I welcomed people to the meditation equinox, because today these are the crucial constellations on this. Okay, you maybe not believe in that, but we try as astrologers to do something else to the world, not only to talk about bad or good situations.
Thank you.
I would like to say something to that. It's okay, it's absolutely clear that if we talk of energies, that the constellation of the stars have an impact and an energy on us. But on the other hand, the stars are giving us a wind, but we are the sailors.
The stars are giving us what?
Thank you for that. I just wanted to say that my vision for this world, I really think that we need to slow down a lot. I think that we need to hold forgiveness in our hearts for others and for ourselves. And then to feel compassion for the fear that has made us so greedy. Because I think that the fear is the problem that's happening in the world and why it is the way that it is. So perhaps just very small steps. Perhaps we could start by bringing in the heart that you spoke about, Serge, into our daily lives, in the way that we look at people at the supermarket, the way that we greet the person when we buy our goods, because I personally do not see many people doing that. When we walk down the street, if we can just try and make more eye contact and send out that global heart, or the heart that we feel as transpersonal people, into our everyday existence. And that perhaps will bring a little bit more of the power of love that you've spoken about, because I think that that is the only healing power that we have at this moment. Thank you.
I want to add to it. I'm really thankful that you talk about it, Lindy. And I really believe that we should meet people's needs, spiritual needs, for community, for support, for compassion, for love, for getting deeply into mystery of life, to meet, to face dying. And so if we, my choice is to do rite of passage experiences for the families, for the communities, and for global solution to assist people in giving birth, bringing children, becoming a woman, becoming a man, facing death, and so on and so on. So if we go deeply into the ritual initiation, then we really feel the jewel inside of us, who we really are. And this reclaiming our real identity, it helps a lot to connect with the whole. Thank you. And since I have a taxi in just a few minutes, I want to really thank all of you, and especially the organizers of the conference, Marian and Elena, and everybody who gave us the best you can, the best you have. Thank you so much.
Okay. I've been listening to the list of symptoms of the illnesses of our world and society, and I like to deal with causes rather than symptoms. Also, what we need to do and what we must to do, forgiveness, etc. I love those words, but I want to get more practical here. I think we need to look at the start from the roots, and the root is education. A lot of very good political ideas and social ideas and educational ideas uh, have been imposed rather than created. So I have a suggestion. Let's focus on education. Let's focus on education because with education we actually shaping the future of our world and our society. Imagine for a moment a kindergarten when children come in the morning and learn how to meditate. Imagine for a moment a primary school when children start every day with a sharing. Did you have any dream tonight? How do you feel? What do you need from today? Anything you want to share about what's happening in your family? Any ups and downs? Any needs? Just to listen instead of programming the children. And imagine a high school when a group of pupils is put together in a small group. And in this small group, they are told, you're going to, there are a lot of kissing going on, and I feel jealous. Okay. Imagine for a moment high school, a group of pupils is put together, and they are told that when you pass the exams, you don't receive individual mark, you receive the average mark of your group. You are responsible for each other. We know China educated today to compete and to achieve. If we want to see what competition is done to our world, we have to look at our economy. This is a result of competition. We forgot cooperation. So my suggestion is to get out of the spiritual cave and down the spiritual tree and start from the basics, start from the kindergarten, start to teach children meditation. I think it's our political and social duty. I was told that EUROTAS is not a political organization. For me, everything is political. To start from the basics to design a transpersonal educational program to actually give something to the community. Thank you.
Wait a minute, I want to say something. I want to say something about love. Love today is one of the most used words in the world. If you go in a city, then you see the word love in cinemas, in fashion stores, and it is used in music and in films, in literature, and so on. So we all know about the meaning of love, but the problem is that nobody takes it serious. And I think this is our problem. We know what it is about, but we don't take serious the most important things of ourselves. So let us do this, to take ourselves serious. What does it mean to take ourselves serious? To recognize and to accept what's true in this moment. When you are afraid, then you take serious your fears. When you are rageful, you take serious your rage, and so on. I think taken serious ourselves, this is the basis, and this would lead to actions, not vice versa. First actions, and then asking what happened with our actions. So, and then love will spread in our relationships in a very deep and meaningful way. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Good. Yes, thank you very much for that contribution, because that's when you say love as a resonance with the flow of life, it's exactly that. How do you perceive the flow of life in you? It comes to sensory awareness. Are you aware of your breathing? Are you aware of your muscles? How much and are we in contact when we look at each other? And so on. It begins on that level. And with that, coming back to I studied anthropology to understand the red thread that connects us in all cultures. And then I became a teacher because I thought that's where we got to begin. So I traveled the world to start alternative schooling and bringing that spirit into schools, and can bring a lot of experience from that place. My children now are all grown, but these children have parents, and when these children come home, then we also got to see who are these parents. So we got to work on all these levels, and for sure bringing much more into the children's world, right? And thank you.
I am new person for the EUROTAS, and thanks to my wife, she brought me to this organization. I feel it like my family now. I started meditating, to be exact, 24 years ago, and I have one question and one suggestion. I want to ask what's next after this meeting. What's going to happen next? Lunch. So my suggestion is, by the first degree, I'm a lawyer, so there is a legal way to send our messages to the world, so that this meeting wouldn't stay inside of this building, and we just can have a resolution. We can have a secretary and like a chief of the meeting, and we can send out this resolution. We can sign, we can write down in the paper our suggestions, our thoughts about what's going on in the world, how to change, how to make it better, and to give some legal official way, something like this. And we can send it to United Nations or to different newspapers so that other world can know what's going on here, what about we're talking, why we're talking, what we think we can do. Personally, I can't agree with idea that we can change the world. Before I talked, I said that maybe it's better to be more to be more concrete, to give more clear definitions to the world. When we say that we want to change the world, maybe it means that it's not perfect, that something is going wrong, bad in the world. But my belief is that the world was created by the perfect universe or by the perfect God, and the world itself is perfect. The same with the human being. The human being, each of us is the perfect. Maybe the problem is that we don't use our thinking possibilities right. We have a wrong system of values, which is the which is the root problem of the problems we can see in the world. But if we want to change something, then we can do something else, not only to talk and to discuss among ourselves. So this is my suggestion.
Can I just make a very quick comment? I absolutely agree. At one level, everything is perfect, and there is nothing that is out of harmony. But at a lower level, things need to be done to move into that place of perfection. So I think we need to dance with that paradox. So I agree, but it doesn't mean that we say everything's perfect, so I can just lie back and it'll all happen. So there's a lot we need to do.
I just wanted to tell Yuri so that he feels better about education. I've been a teacher for 28 years in Athens. I taught 15 years of third grade, and every third grade morning we did a meditation with a heart in the middle of our circle for heart going out to Greece and the rest of the world. By the way, I'm teaching drama at the American Community School in Athens. There, as we speak at the moment, drawing mandalas for homework whilst I'm away about the unique aspects of the self. We do mindfulness every time they come into class. So my gesture out to whoever is in the teaching and the educational system, if you would like to come in contact with me through www.transpersonal.gr, we will create I can give you the stuff that we're doing on mindfulness, and we can build a change in the education system from within.
I'd like to talk about, I don't like to look at our world as being in a crisis or a problem, because I'm a great believer in resolution being in the problem. And I tend to kind of resonate with what you said. I tend to believe that there is something bigger, a unifying force. So, we all call it different names. And I'm kind of losing my train of thought, so... Yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. I had something really profound that was bubbling up, and it kind of just like left, so maybe it will come back. Another thing I wanted to say is the difference between process and content. As psychotherapists, therapists, space holders, I know we're very much attuned to the difference, that words can be manipulative, that the same word, Ingo, you spoke to the word of love, that love can be meeting us at different levels of consciousness or development, if it's according to Ken Wilber's model or Piaget's model or whatever. So I think even as in my own transpersonal view of talking about the knowing field, or the Neil spoke about the collective consciousness, that by changing my own field, by working on my own process and just bringing it into, just being present with that. I'm just losing my track of thought. I think I'm going to stop speaking at this point. I'm like...
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay, we need to bring this to a close. We will move right from this into the closing ceremonies. After the closing ceremonies, we will have lunch. And for those that are interested in talking to the people involved with the DAISY group, after lunch we will have a group together out in the reception area. So I just want to give a big round of applause to all of you who contributed, to our panelists. Thank you.
And wait a minute, I have to announce something. And at the beginning of the closing circle, we'll deliver the certificates. So the people who are getting a certificate from us, please stay here.
Well, actually, everybody who's involved, please stay here for the closing ceremonies.